When a superior man hears of the Tao, he immediately begins to embody it. When an average man hears of the Tao, he half believes it, half doubts it. When a foolish man hears of the Tao, he laughs out loud. If he didn't laugh, it wouldn't be the Tao. There is one quality that distinguishes one seeker from the other, which is very significant on the spiritual path. As seekers, individuals get differentiated based on their level of openness. What do I mean by openness? There are two extremes of how an individual accepts and receives knowledge, information, and guidance from outside. On the one end of the spectrum is absolute rigidity. A man is filled with his own mind, with his own ego, so much that nothing penetrates him. Even the world's greatest wisdom simply bounces off him because he's so thick, he's so fixed, he's so rigid, he's so adamant that he cannot even acknowledge the presence of something that can transform him. He cannot even recognize wisdom that can introduce him to himself. That is one end of the spectrum. The other end is openness. You have understood life enough. You have had enough experiences. You have watched your mind enough. You have watched your body enough to recognize the presence of your ego. And you have learned how to separate between the voice of your ego and the voice of yourself. Only an individual who has learned how to recognize the voice of the self is ripe for spiritual awakening, is ready to pursue the path. Otherwise, his ego will never allow him to be open enough to accept such a transcendental understanding of life as awakening. And Tao is the realization of the ultimate truth. In a way, you have to break away from all your deep set conditioning to be able to realize the truth. Because the truth is right there. It is yours. It has always been yours. It is not far away. But depending on where you are you lost in your ego or are you open enough? That is what separates one individual from another. That is what makes a man superior, inferior, or mediocre. It's that level of openness. It's that level of detachment from the ego. So he says, when a superior man hears of the Tao, he immediately starts to practice it. Because intuitively, he connects with the voice that says, this is what you need. A superior man who is open, who is available, who is ready, who has subdued his ego, is open enough to receive something new. He is not afraid. He does not fear that this something new will destroy his ego, because he has already started the process of ego destruction. That is what intelligence is. That is what awareness is. Pure intelligence is a ego destroying phenomenon. Why? Because you can either be intelligent or you can be dogmatic. You can either be available to the experiences of the present moment, which is the definition of intelligence, or be stuck in fixed ideas that you don't want to let go of. Ego always holds on to deeply established concepts and ideas of itself. This is who I am. This is what I know, and there cannot be anything above and beyond what I know. And the ego always identifies itself with the crowd. It finds its support not in truth, but in the voice of the crowd. If an idea is repeated enough, if enough number of people believe in it, that is what the ego identifies with, because it does not have its own understanding. The voice of the ego is really the voice of the crowd, it's the voice of the community. It's a collective voice. That is why it is almost impossible for the ego to listen to the voice of the self. The voice of the self is completely drowned. If you have spent enough time listening to all these voices, making a conscious effort to connect with your inner voice, yes, this happens in meditation. This happens on the spiritual path consciously. But individuals by themselves, even without awareness of meditation, even without pursuing a spiritual path, the way they live their life, the way they ask questions, the way they seek knowledge, they could either be pursuing a path of ego destruction or building of the ego. An individual can be pursuing a path of ambition, accomplishment, name, fame. He wants to become something more in the ego. So he's pursuing that path. There's another individual who has recognized the futility of adding more and more desires to the ego. He has already understood the value of simplicity. He has already understood the value of being here and now. Even without a spiritual understanding of life, just practical, experiential understanding of life has taught him that the only way he can connect with himself, the only way he can be with himself is if he reduces that mental noise of ambition and achievement. So when the knowledge of truth reaches an individual is already at a certain level. Because whether you want it or not, you are on a path of learning. Life is an experiential journey to learn as much as possible about yourself. There is no other purpose to life other than to figure out what is your role here, what is your purpose here, what is the meaning of everything that is happening around you, how does it connect to you. So, whether you want it or not, you're already on the path of learning. So, when the ultimate knowledge, the knowledge of self realization, the knowledge of going beyond pain and suffering, going beyond delusion and illusions, when you are introduced to that knowledge, you are always standing on some pedestal of understanding of your own. If you have already begun your journey of ego destruction and you're open enough, then you become that superior man who cannot wait to begin the practice.